When you win, you are elevated to the status of a national hero. When you lose, you feel the collective sigh of millions of people pressing down on your chest. You carry that weight onto the court every single time you play. Most young prodigies absolutely crack under this exact pressure, fading away into the lower ranks. They become cautionary tales of too much hype too soon. Eala had to navigate this psychological minefield while simultaneously adjusting her entire physical game to suit the unforgiving professional level. She had the talent, and that was always incredibly obvious. Anyone who watched her hit a tennis ball knew she was gifted. But talent alone does not prepare you for the brick wall you hit when the tour stops treating you like a kid and starts treating you like a target. It is the kind of silent struggle that forces you to either grow up instantly or get completely left behind. If watching a young athlete fight through that terrifying level of isolation and shoulder, the weight of an entire nation resonates with you, make sure you stay with me for this next part. Because the exact moment she decides to push back against the darkness is one of the most incredible turning points you will ever witness in modern sports. Clay is a completely different beast. It does not care about your junior Grand Slam titles, and it definitely does not care about your media hype. There were stretches on the dirt where Eala had to completely rebuild her mental foundation after taking some seriously tough hits. When you step onto a professional red clay court, the entire geometry and physics of tennis completely change. The surface acts like a massive sponge, absorbing the pace of your fastest and most aggressive shots. A massive forehand that would be a clean winner on a hard court suddenly slows down, just enough for your opponent to slide over and block the ball back over the net. You have to hit 3, 4, or even 5 extra shots just to end a single rally. For a young player who naturally plays an aggressive style, this surface is an absolute nightmare. It tests your patience more than any other environment on the planet, and it physically breaks down your body. Your legs burn from the constant sliding, and your lungs scream for air during the brutal 30-shot rallies. Imagine playing against seasoned veterans who grew up on European clay courts. These women know exactly how to construct points slowly, fully understanding the dark arts of the dirt. They trap you in grueling baseline exchanges, hitting the ball with heavy spin that kicks up violently above your shoulders to force uncomfortable defensive shots over and over again. We saw Eala struggle with this exact dynamic during her early tournaments on the surface. She would hit a brilliant shot only to see the ball come floating back. The frustration would naturally build, and the unforced errors would inevitably start to pile up. The mental exhaustion is heavier than the physical fatigue. I want you to imagine the background music completely cutting out right here. Just listen to the absolute silence of those isolating moments. The heavy breathing echoing across an empty practice court, the sharp squeak of tennis shoes struggling to find grip on the sliding dirt, the brutal sound of the ball hitting the net. You can almost feel the crushing frustration building up inside her chest. Every single mistake feels like a massive mountain you have to climb over. This is the dark, unfiltered side of professional sports that nobody ever puts on a viral highlight reel. It is a lonely battle against your own self-doubt. The media questions inevitably started creeping into the conversation. Tennis analysts and casual fans began to wonder if the transition to the adult tour was happening too fast. They looked at the early exits in smaller events and asked the painful questions. Is she really ready for the WTA 1000 level? Can a teenage prodigy from the Philippines truly master the European red dirt? The gap between the junior circuit and the absolute highest level of professional tennis suddenly looked terrifyingly huge. You have to remember the context of her background. She is carrying the dreams of a nation that does not have a massive global tennis infrastructure. She is a pioneer, and when you are charting a path completely alone, every single failure feels magnified. Many incredible young talents crack under this specific type of pressure, losing their confidence entirely. They change their entire playing style in a desperate panic, fire their coaches, and fade into the background. A lot of players would have packed up their bags and simply waited for the grass season to start. Eala dug her heels into the red dirt instead. That brings us to May 8 against Wang Xinyu. This was not just a tennis match, it was a massive statement. Eala walked onto the court, not just hoping to survive the rallies, but actively looking to dictate the terms of the fight. Wang Xinyu is an incredibly dangerous opponent who brings massive power and years of experience to the court. Most people expected a brutal, grinding fight where the young Filipino star would be pushed to her absolute physical limits and eventually overpowered. But from the very first point of the match, the body language of Eala told a completely different story. She was no longer playing the role of the victim on the clay, looking completely transformed. Her eyes were locked in, and her footwork was sharp and aggressive. Instead of retreating far behind the baseline to defend, she held her ground. She started stepping inside the court to take the ball early, robbing Wang Xinyu of precious reaction time. This is an incredibly difficult and risky strategy on this surface. You need perfect footwork and absolute confidence in your timing to execute this game plan. If you hesitate for even a fraction of a second, you will hit the ball into the fence. But she did not hesitate at all. She was hitting with a heavy, penetrating topspin that pinned her opponent deep in the corners of the court. She was constructing the points like a seasoned veteran, waiting patiently for the perfect opening before pulling the trigger down the line. This tactical shift is absolutely fascinating to watch. Did you notice how she changed her court positioning during this specific match compared to her earlier tournaments? I really want to hear from the hardcore tennis fans watching this right now. Drop a comment below and tell me if you saw that brilliant shift in her footwork, because that precise adjustment is the real secret engine behind this entire historic run. The momentum of the match swung entirely in her direction as she took the first set 6-4. You could visibly feel the belief surging through her veins. Wang Xinyu tried to push back in the second set, hitting harder and aiming closer to the lines. But Eala absorbed the pace beautifully and maintained her relentless, calculated aggression. She moved gracefully, sliding into her defensive shots and exploding into her offensive strikes. The Italian crowd, recognizing the absolute brilliance they were witnessing, started to rally completely behind her. They felt the energy shifting on the court and realized they were watching a rising star figure out a massive puzzle in real time. The score reached 6-3 in the second set. Match point. The tension in the stadium was incredible. She served, stepped into the court, and delivered the final blow. Game, set, match. Every single winner she hit that day felt like a physical release of all the pressure, the anxiety, and the doubt from the past few months. This was the exact moment the entire narrative flipped upside down. This was not merely a good win against a tough opponent. It was an open-era, historic milestone. She silenced every single person who thought she was just an online phenomenon with a large, passionate fan base. She proved to the entire world that she possesses the tactical genius and the physical endurance to dismantle top-tier opponents on the most physically demanding surface in the sport. The ghosts of those early clay court struggles were completely exorcised. When she secured that final match point, she did not just advance in a tournament, she literally changed the landscape of the WTA rankings. The shockwaves from that win hit the rankings immediately, vaulting her straight up to number 37 inches the world. And the rest of the locker room is definitely taking notes. When someone like Coco Gauff goes out of her way to talk about how massive your fan base is, you have officially arrived. Think about what jumping 5 spots to number 37 actually means in the brutal landscape of professional tennis. It is not just a shiny number next to your name on a website. It is a completely different level of respect, power, and financial security. It means you are no longer the underdog trying to scrap through the exhausting, unpaid qualifying rounds just to get a spot in the main draw. It means you start getting direct entries into the biggest and most prestigious events on the planet. You become a seeded threat. The top players look at the tournament draw, see your name in their bracket, and immediately realize they have a massive problem on their hands. Eala forced the entire tour to look at her differently in the span of a single afternoon in Rome. The momentum right now is absolutely snowballing into something we have rarely seen in modern sports history. It is no longer just the dedicated Filipino community staying awake at ungodly hours to watch her play. The casual tennis world is completely locked in. When you have global sports icons like Valentino Rossi showing up and expressing pure shock at the atmosphere, you transcend the sport of tennis entirely. Rossi has seen the greatest spectacles in athletic history, from sold-out tracks in Europe to massive global Grand Prix events. Yet he was completely mesmerized by the chaotic, beautiful energy surrounding a teenager from the Philippines. People who do not even watch tennis are tuning in because they realize they are watching a genuine superstar being born in real time. They want to witness history unfold. This level of cultural impact is so incredibly rare. The validation from her peers is perhaps the most telling sign of her arrival on the big stage. Coco Gauff is a Grand Slam champion who knows exactly what it feels like to be a teenage prodigy with the weight of the world on her shoulders. Gauff openly admitted that the crowds showing up for this young phenomenon are some of the largest and most passionate on the entire tour. Hearing an established American superstar validate your impact instantly removes any lingering doubts. It bridges the gap between regional fame and mainstream global sports media, confirming that the noise is absolutely real. The hype is entirely justified. The movement is simply unstoppable at this point. Every time she steps onto the court now, the energy completely shifts. Opponents can physically feel the heavy atmosphere pressing down on them. They hear the roaring crowd before they even finish their warm-ups in the tunnel. That type of intense external pressure can easily break a fragile opponent before the first ball is even tossed into the air. Eala has weaponized her fan base. She takes all that roaring, chaotic energy from the stands, internalizes it, and channels it directly into her racket. She is riding a massive wave of absolute triumph right now. But tomorrow, that beautiful wave crashes into a terrifyingly large brick wall. Let us be real about what happens tomorrow. She is walking out there to face Elena Rybakina, the number 2 player on the planet. It is going to be an absolute dogfight. But honestly, all the pressure is entirely on Rybakina. Facing Elena Rybakina is like trying to stop a speeding freight train with your bare hands. She is ice-cold, incredibly precise, and armed with one of the most devastating serves in the history of the Women's Tour. She already has a Wimbledon title, and she knows how to dismantle opponents with ruthless efficiency. This is the ultimate David versus Goliath scenario playing out on one of the biggest clay courts in the world. But for those of you who have stuck around to the deep end of this video, I am going to let you in on a massive tactical secret that the mainstream sports media is completely missing right now. Rybakina hits the ball incredibly flat. She drives her powerful shots straight through the court with minimal spin, relying on pure pace to overwhelm her opponents. But what did we just see Eala perfect against Wang Xinyu yesterday? She absolutely mastered the heavy, aggressive topspin. This is the weapon you need to completely neutralize a flat ball striker on a slow red clay court. By hitting the ball with massive rotation, she can force the ball to kick up violently above the shoulders of Rybakina. She can push the number 2 player in the world far out of her comfortable strike zone and disrupt her perfect timing. It is a brilliant, subtle chess move that could completely level the playing field tomorrow afternoon. Win or lose against that giant, Eala has already fundamentally altered the trajectory of tennis in the Philippines forever. She proved that an Asian player from a country without a massive global tennis pedigree can cross the ocean and absolutely terrorize the European clay court swing. She broke the ceiling. She shattered the old mold. The young kids watching back home in Manila finally have a hero who looks like them, dominating on the grandest stages of the sport against the best athletes in the world. Tomorrow is a beautiful, free swing at history. She has absolutely nothing to lose, and a massive, roaring crowd completely behind her, pushing her forward. How far can this impossible dream actually go? Can she pull off the ultimate upset and bring the number 2 player in the world to her knees? If you want to find out the answer and track every single step of this unbelievable historic run, make sure you hit subscribe right now so you do not miss our full tactical breakdown of the Rybakina match the exact second it ends.